Before we start, let me ask you a quick question. What if the reason you think you are not smart is simply because no one ever showed you how to use your brain? That's exactly what this chapter is about. Hi, welcome back to my channel. And I am Dr. B, and today we are continuing through You Have a Brain by Ben Carson, MD. In the last video, we talked about chapter 3, where we really understood Ben and Curtis' background, the poverty, the fear, the labels. We also saw how deeply Ben believed he was a dummy, how his mom decided she needed a lasting solution, not just encouragement. So today we are looking at chapter 4 titled How We Got Smart. And let me just say this up front. This chapter proves that smart is not something you're born with. It is something you build. Nobody is born being smart. It's something you build over time. So the morning after Sonia Carson prayed, she woke her sons up and told them she believed God had given her wisdom to change their routine. And that change was not funny at all because it came with rules. There were rules attached. So the first rule was television would mostly be turned off, but then the boys will be allowed to watch only 3 selected TV shows per week. It was very strange to the guys because here are kids who watch television every time. But here's the real shocker. She told them they must read two books, and write book reports for each of the book they read. Ben was confused because he was just 11 years old, and he admitted in the book that he had never read an entire book before except his school books. So 2 books per week sounded ridiculous, sounded impossible, but his mom was firm. She had made up her mind and there was no going back. So she told them something very powerful, something I think you should also pay attention to. So if you can read, you can learn just about anything you want to learn. The doors of the world are open to people who can read. My dear young friend, the doors of the world are open to people who can read. Ben later joked that he wasn't interested in doors of the world. He just wanted to be outdoors. How funny. But his mom had already made up her mind, right? So there was no going back. She also had a plan for how, they would get books. She told them to go to Detroit Public Library after school and pick books that genuinely interested them. Not books she chose, so that was good for the guys. So the books they liked, they could pick any book, just they were to read wide, just so far they are reading. Ben was surprised when he realized something shocking. He could actually finish 2 books in a week. So what sounded very difficult wasn't difficult after all. Not only that, he could write reports on those books. So every time their mom would ask them to read the report, it was much later in life that Ben and Curtis felt that their mom could not read, but then she encouraged them to read. How loving. Yet she loved them deeply and believed in their God-given abilities and expected them to use their talents. That's very deep. So even when she couldn't read, she encouraged her boys to read. She also told them something she noticed from her work. She was working with people in the upper class. She realized that successful people always find time to read and learn new things. Even when other mothers tried to convince her that the reading plan was too strict, she did not change. She did not change her mind. She was bent on her rules because she apparently had an idea. She knew something was going to change. So as Ben read more, something beautiful happened. He discovered he loved animal books. Then he became interested in rocks and plants. So many books on rocks that he could practically identify rocks on his way home from school. And that reading started to yield fruit because one day in 5th grade science class, Ben's teacher brought a rock to class and asked who knows the name of that particular rock. Ben recognized the rock immediately because he had been reading. He recognized it immediately as obsidian. But guess what? Ben waited. He waited for the so-called smart kids to answer. None of them did. After a while, Ben slowly raised up his hand. I can imagine. So his classmates noticed and they were already preparing to laugh. Can you just imagine that? But Ben answered confidently, "It's obsidian." The teacher affirmed his answer and further asked that he should explain how obsidian, that is the rock, was formed. And Ben answered that too correctly. The class went silent. I'm sure that must have been a redefining moment for Ben. The same boy they called Dummy knew the answer. So after class, the science teacher, Mr. Jack, asked Ben to see him. Ben was excited because Mr. Jack was one of the coolest teachers in class in school. So you can imagine rolling with the coolest teacher in school. He was friendly, he was relatable, and he was respected. So when Ben told him about his reading plan, the teacher became deeply interested. That day, Mr. Jack became Ben's first mentor outside his mom. Ben started spending time in the science laboratory in school. After school, he saw birds, fishes, and other life forms up close so he could relate with them up front. Mr. Jack trusted him so much that he gave Ben responsibility for feeding the animals. Ben was thrilled, and more than that, something inside him changed. For the first time, he stopped seeing himself as a dummy. How nice. And he realized something important. He was smart, and he realized that his mom had been right all this while. He realized that he had a brain, a good one at that. And that brings us to the end of chapter 4. Thank you so much for staying with me till the end. Now, I really want to hear from you. What is the biggest lesson you have learned so far from You Have a Brain? Please write it in the comment section. Let me read from you. Let me know if you've actually learned something. Also, tell me what book you would like us to discuss next. It could be a book you have always wanted to read but never got around to. So I'll get that book, and of course, trust me, I'll read the book for you. So don't forget to invite your friends to subscribe. Learning is better when we do it together. And please like this video. It helps the message reach more young person who need it. Until next time, remember you have a brain and it can take you farther than you imagine. Bye.